I hereby open this meeting of the Tyngsborough Conservation Commission under the State Wetland Protection Act, Mass General Law, C-131, S-40, in accordance with the Town of Tyngsborough Wetland Protection Bylaw on this day, August 13th, 2024. First item on the agenda, 222 Massapog Road, Map 2, Parcel 32-0, DEP number 3091020. Costas Malapanis, applicant for after-the-fact notice of intent for construction of a 12-by-12 patio with a 16-by-40 landscaped retaining wall and 4 additional granite steps that access the existing beach area, continued from July 23rd, 2024.
Hi,
Thank
good
you.
evening, everyone. Maureen Harold, North Environmental Services. Here with me tonight is Costas, the homeowner. Okay. So, Costas reached out to me to assist him in addressing the DEP comments. I apologize for the late submittal. I got the plan on Friday, and I wanted to get this right to the commission. I can go through the DEP comments quickly with the commission if you'd like. So DEP's first comment was the NOI is not signed by property owner or owners of common land. In the package that I just handed out, there's an enclosed declaration of common land easement rights signed by the property owners that states the tract of land shall be kept open for common use of the abutters. So that's part of the package that was sent to DEP. DEP's next comment was project is not buffer zone only. That is correct. We have a perennial stream and associated 200-foot riverfront area, as well as a 100-foot buffer zone to the bank of Massapog Lake and the bank of the unnamed perennial stream. So buffer zone and riverfront. Impacts to all the resource areas must be quantified. My letter, I also updated the notice of intent form, and the notice of intent plan has been updated as well and quantifies the impact to the resource areas. Okay, next comment, unable to determine if project meets performance standards. Again, this supplemental package that I'm supplying to the commission and DEP demonstrates that the project meets performance standards. Next comment, work is proposed within the riverfront to a perennial stream, but no information was submitted on how the project complies with 10.585. So in the package, I adjust the riverfront regulations. This is considered a redevelopment because we have 2 existing structures. We have a gravel parking area, we have a gravel drive. This property was developed prior to August 7th, 1996. That's when the riverfront regulations became enacted within the Wetland Protection Act. The camps were constructed in approximately 1936. I enclosed the assessor's card that shows that that's when the camps were constructed. Property consists of 2 cottages, gravel access drive, and parking area. At a minimum, the proposed work shall result in an improvement over the existing conditions of the capacity of the riverfront area to protect the interests of Mass General Laws 13140. When a lot is previously developed, but no portion of the riverfront area is degraded, the requirements of 10.584 shall be met. So, as part of the plan, and I know the commission is familiar with it, a landscape plan was submitted as part of this package with plantings. So that's how we're proposing to improve the overall riverfront area. Next standard, stormwater management is provided according to the standards established by the department. The single-family dwellings are not subject to stormwater management standards, so that point is moot. Within 200-foot riverfront areas, proposed work shall not be located closer to the river than the existing conditions or 100 feet, whichever is less, or not closer than the existing conditions within 25-foot riverfront areas, except in accordance with da-da-da-da-da-da. So the work is not closer than the existing conditions. The gravel access drive in the parking area is closer. Proposed work, including expansion of existing structures, shall be located outside the riverfront area or towards the riverfront boundary and away from the river, except in accordance to 10.5A5 F and G. So the entire lot is located within the inner riparian, so that's from 0 to 100 feet. And the work that was performed is located away from the river, so not closer to the river than the existing conditions. The area of the proposed work shall not exceed the amount of degraded area, provided that the proposed work may alter up to 10% if the degraded area is less than 10% of the riverfront area. So the total degraded area is 3668 square feet, and the new degraded area is 617 square feet. Under the Wetland Protection Act, they have exemptions. And part of this project falls within the exemptions. So they're considered minor activities, and the conversion of lawn to uses to residential structures such as decks, sheds, patios, pools, replacements of basement bulkheads, installations of ramp, including material staging and stockpiling, is located more than 50 feet from the mean annual high water, within the riverfront bank, or from the BVW. So the construction of the porch and 2 paver patios are greater than 50 feet from the bank, and they're exempt from the regulations. Next comment was insufficient fee payment. So that was corrected, and a money order was sent into DEP, and it's my understanding that the town received the additional funds of $27.50. So when you do work within the riverfront area, the fee gets times by 1.5 times, so it's just an additional fee because you're in the riverfront area. Work appears to be proposed within bordering land subject to flooding, but the plan is insufficient in terms of grading changes, cut, fill to confirm if the project meets 10.574A. So the 100-year floodplain is elevation 167.6. That's shown on the plan now and highlighted. We have a cut and fill chart up on that corner there. The project results in a net or an additional compensatory storage of 137 cubic feet. So let's see. This is essentially for the patio area and the retaining walls. So there was 138 cubic feet of floodplain that was altered, and we're providing 275 cubic feet of compensatory storage. So we're exceeding the amount that's required. Okay, last comment. Project appears to be proposed in the ACEC, but no information was provided to confirm now adverse impact. So that is correct, it's within the Pettapog ACEC. Essentially, the project itself is improving the overall conditions, meaning the restoration of the camp, the patios, restoring and the stairway going down to Massapog, that's been rebuilt. The site is completely stabilized. We're incorporating plantings to improve the site and within the riverfront area. So in the package, I have the plan, I have my letter, I have the declaration of the easement, I have the property card, I have the landscape plan that the commission had looked at before, and I have the revised notice of intent. So I know I obviously went through a lot of stuff very quickly, so if you have any questions.
Where are you putting the compensatory storage?
Yeah, I missed that too, I'm sorry.
So the 100-year floodplain is right here, this black line. And the compensatory storage was this graded out area here. So we have the cut and fill. So it's between 165.5 to 166. So it's in this area here. So we had emailed this off to DEP, just so the commission is aware. She was part of the mass emailing list. I wanted to make sure she received the supplemental information so we can possibly avoid any appeals. Costas had mentioned that he had worked on a wall near the pond. The only thing that I could possibly think of how that would affect the project would be the floodplain along the pond. I quickly calculated it off of what Costas told me the numbers were. So it was 8 inches high by, where the heck did my paper go? 8 inches high by 8 inches wide by approximately 10 feet long. So that comes out to 4.4 cubic feet of floodplain alteration. We have a net gain of floodplain volume of 137 cubic feet.
Are you talking the wall he put in the water?
Yeah,
It's higher than 8 inches.
No, the top part, the bottom part was there.
You raised the whole grade there. We have before pictures and after pictures. The original pictures showed were the 3 steps you put in on the original NOI. All right, you raised the grade of that whole beach area in the floodplain.
The wall, the bottom part of that wall was there.
Pam, can you go back to the original pictures of,
here, I'll take this down.
Are any of these?
it's just gonna, you'll see when it gets to the water. Is it second, go right, is that one there? Try, flick on that one. All right, that's the original steps he put on the first NOI. Right, this is, this picture's back from 2020, 21? 20,
it says
all right.
Ed sidewalk.
Yep, so, click sideways like, because I took a bunch of pictures of, off the dock area. That's when the excavator, go back, sorry. Should be a side view of it better. That was all, sand was all brought in and raised the grade. That's from 2000, right there's a side picture of it. That was just steps put in there, and the grade was raised.
Do you have something from the front, from the lakeside?
Keep going.
I don't think we have anything from the lakeside.
But you'll see, the picture above will show the 3 steps. You only put 3 steps in there. Right, there's another one. I took where the stream was coming towards. There's another one sideways. The whole sand raised the whole grade there because you can see the shrubs after it, the blueberries or whatever they were. Spice bush or whatever it was. There's another picture of it.
Can you zoom in to see? Pull it down.
Down here?
Up a little bit further.
That way there.
That's where the location of the wall is right now.
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
So the grade was raised then, and the grade's raised higher now.
Okay, Okay, so do we have a plan that showed the original grade?
When I went there, these are pictures when I got the call and the excavator was going down there. He had already done this work. I assumed that the grade was the same as both sides of the property.
Okay.
What's that picture right there, Pam? That's the new wall he put in, right?
This was,
Yeah.
this sidewalk.
But
The
when I
top
went there, because you can see the fillings on the pine tree that is still there,
Yeah.
all right? So, go back to the pictures I took of, that pine tree's in the original pictures.
Stones underneath were there against the banking.
I'm only stating this so we're all on the same board, we know exactly what's going on. It
No, I
wasn't,
appreciate
it wasn't pre-existent. This is from the first NOI after the fact. Right there, you can see the tree is filled, if, I don't know if you can bring it down a little, but one of the
There
pictures will
might be
show.
a better photo, keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
Keep going.
You can see it, but you have to really look for it, but you can see the sand is tapered in the back side.
Okay, so my original thought was, because I haven't seen it, but I thought stone was placed on
But
top of stone.
this was brought up at the last meeting that he was at, that there's, I'm sure, so the board was all on board with seeing the original pictures from 2020, from the original NOI after the fact. So that, you know, I'm just clarifying that the grade has been raised, and that everybody knows it, and that, you know, it ain't a pre-existing condition.
Okay,
So one of the things we've been trying to sort out, and kind of what we did here, was to break apart the two projects, basically. The wall going into the water, and the patios, and the plantings, and all of that, with an enforcement order, and basically looking at the wall itself. And what we requested was put us in, or put Mr. Costas in a position also of being able to rationalize how does this wall, in its current conditions, meet the performance standards that are applicable for the associated resource areas, so that we have a confident level, because, you know, DP is going to be highly aware of this particular project when we submit now for the wall going on. So that's what we're trying to do, is put in a position that we're all confident that with the rationales that have been put together about how it meets performance standards and such for the wall itself, that would be a separate notice of intent. And in the meantime, and that would include the changes to the bank, changes to the wall itself, and then handling kind of most of what we're seeing here as the separate notice of intent. We didn't see a way around this, and hence putting in the enforcement order to make that explanation prior to receiving a notice of intent, so that we have, you know, a feel moving forward that DEP is going to accept this. And again, the big concern now is because of all of this, DEP is already aware of what's going on here. When they see another after the fact notice of intent, you know, we'd like to have that all, you know, fully rationalized, fully have an expectation on how that's going to, you know, flow through.
okay, so,
Because this is gonna be the third after-the-fact notice of intent. The granite along the water.
okay,
All right, so that's not gonna look good on our part either. DEP's gonna be all over, you know, we're gonna have to continue the meeting anyways till next time to wait for comments, because this was just submitted today.
so we're more than happy to continue if that's the pleasure of the board. My experience with DEP is they don't comment. Meaning, you submit supplemental information, and if they don't like it, they appeal.
Yeah, well, we're gonna wait just one more time, just because we
That's
don't-
fine,
You know,
that's fine. Okay, so So then moving forward, the commission needs an after-the-fact notice of intent for the wall.
Yes, we explained that
Yeah.
multiple
Okay.
times to Costas last meeting, that he was here, that we need this is the third NOI. We
Okay.
originally wanted to remove it.
Yep,
We're trying to work with them to be less detrimental to the property to leave it.
okay.
But, you know, it's just, I don't know how to say it, you can't, 3 times after the fact
I
is not
understand.
acceptable.
Okay, so is it just the wall or is it the sand too? Just so I understand.
Well, you're gonna have to, the grade, you're gonna have to figure out how much the grade was raised, because that changes your compensatory, I can never say it right,
Compensatory.
compensatory storage, you know,
Okay.
because you did raise the grade.
Okay,
You know, I just want to clarify it, so, you know, if DEP does have comments, that we've already made a point of it.
This also, I wrote out a nice.
We have some order conditions,
explanation in
yeah.
the enforcement order, so
okay,
it is all referenced in the enforcement order.
okay.
So what do we do? Do we have him pull back the sand to see what the original grade was?
Maureen and him can come up with a plan and let us, you know, and for the storage and everything.
I mean, you could auger through the sand or even just dig a hole to get an idea of how much sand was
Right.
placed on top.
Right,
Yeah.
Just, well,
Yeah, it's like a test pit and.
test it, okay. So I just
Smaller.
wanted to see where this was gonna go.
right.
Okay.
But-
But you see the approach that we took and kind of why
Yeah,
Right, no, I understand. I wasn't aware of, the enforcement action in terms
Yes,
of the
well,
wall.
we
So
also
that,
ex-
I'm just catching up
Right.
on
well, we
that.
also explained to Costas that that's a floodplain, you can't raise the grade in the floodplain, so you have to have compensatory storage.
Yeah, okay. And we may have enough, but we may need Jeff Hannaford to go back out and just verify that
Right,
and, show it.
And that's what we were hoping to eventually come to. We understood that this one we'd be taken care of first, and then come back
Okay.
again, and like I say, it's basically writing the NOI without quite doing yet to lift the enforcement order to give that in after, or I would argue, we want the NOI prior to lifting the enforcement. I'm not
Yes.
sure how it was written.
The way I wrote it is we wanted at least some information provided to us by the end of August.
Right.
If more time is needed, that's fine, as long as the project is in, the enforcement order is in motion of getting completed.
Okay.
And then, in the enforcement order, I was hoping that the notice of intent would be submitted by September 17th. But again, if more time is needed, just because I wrote this back in 2 months ago, so
Okay.
we can, I feel like the board can be flexible with dates if more time needs to be allotted.
So in terms, I mean, I know I threw a lot of information at the commission, but in terms of the DEP comments, is there any questions on that aspect of it?
I have a question in regards to compliance with 10.58.
Okay,
So I see that the cottages were constructed circa 1936, so they meet the date requirement,
yes.
but do they meet the conditional requirement? What I'm reading here in the statute is previously developed riverfront areas contain areas degraded by impervious surfaces, absence of topsoil, junkyards, or abandoned dumping grounds.
Correct.
Does it meet?
Yes, so I can show you. So I'm not sure if you've been to the site. So we have an existing cottage right here. Well, let me take a step back. We got a perennial stream over here. The 100-foot riverfront is right here, so it's practically the entire lot. So that means the whole lot's within the 200 foot. We have an existing gravel drive that the people who live in this neighborhood use to access their properties. We have an existing gravel parking area here. We have 2 structures and porches. So we have a property with existing impervious area.
Okay.
And the gravel drive would be the absence of topsoil. It's used every day by the people that live there, so there's no growth on it.
Okay. Maybe I'm not interpreting the statute correctly. My interpretation was the plan would be improving impervious surfaces or improving topsoils that have been eroded. Are you saying that just by having impervious surfaces, you meet the definition of?
No, what I'm saying is because the lot's degraded, and degraded is in terms of impervious area, absence of topsoil, junkyards, that puts us in the redevelopment criteria. So there's two riverfront regulations. One is if you have a piece of property that's never been developed, that's along the river, that's completely wooded, there's no impervious, then you deal with 10.584. When you have a piece of property that has existing structures on it, impervious area, you deal with the redevelopment standards. So that's why this project falls under the redevelopment standards, because we have structures, gravel drives, gravel parking areas.
Understood.
The improvement comes with the landscape plan that Costas, I believe, presented to the commission at some point this year, where he designated, and it's in the package, and I know I just gave it to you, so I apologize, but he designates different areas on the lots where he was gonna do plantings and landscaping and essentially improving the riverfront area in that regard. Yes, yes.
You can ask your questions when I open it to the public.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else on the board have any questions or comments?
Just a comment, as a quick reminder, I mean, we had really looked for all of the questions from the DEP, everything that had been brought up to be answered. We already had a planting plan. We talked about the patios themselves and such, so we were kind of waiting to move this project along to have all of that information from the DEP settled.
And I apologize for the delay. Part of the delay was making sure we show everything on the plan within the 200-foot riverfront
Right.
area, so that it just required additional survey and
Yep.
information.
All right, are we all set on comments or questions right now from the board?
My concern was basically, I'll go back to the waterfront area. That was my concern. And
Yeah.
I know that we had brought that up in the prior meeting because it had been disturbed. And in the photographs, you can see that sand was just put right over the vegetation. That was from prior meetings, that was a big concern.
Sure.
And to the point where we were saying, you're gonna need to bring a crane in, lift all the blocking out, and that's a lot of money, Maureen, to go to that route down the road, to say, yeah, we want it all pulled out.
So we settled upon the enforcement order to provide direction on what we wanted to see. And if it was concluded finally that we were not able to, the project would not meet the performance standards, we could not, then we said we would have to pull that wall out.
Okay. Understand it. Okay.
Anyone all set for right now?
I just have one more question.
Yep.
Going back to 10.58. Criteria B regarding stormwater management.
Yes,
So you state that single-family dwellings are not subject.
yes.
My understanding is a large portion of the land being improved upon is common area. Does that fall under a single-family dwelling?
I guess if you wanted to be super technical, the answer would be no. I was looking at it as a whole because I was looking at it in terms of the riverfront and as a whole piece of what improvements have been done to the property. So regarding the common land, really the only impervious are potentially the patios, unless they were, did you build them pervious patios? I know they're blocks, so they probably allow some
yeah.
water through.
Spacing. Yeah, was
So-
there spacing between the patio blocks, or are they butted right up?
I think that, yeah, I think that, I would say they're probably butted to each
Butted.
other, yeah,
So,
yeah.
And then, other than the patios, it would be the retaining walls.
Right,
yes.
right.
And that would be, that would be it. But it's all associated with a
Right,
single-family
but in our
dwelling.
original NOI, the first one after the fact, there was one retaining wall.
Okay,
All right, so that's it, you know, that's why this is for the rest of it, for this NOI. And then, like I said, our third is for the waterfront.
Well, the patios, they were built with, on top of, like, typical patio,
Yeah,
construction. So
Yes,
there is gravel stone underneath.
right. It will allow some water to flow through.
and this site has excellent sandy soils, so in terms of anything running off the patio, it's just gonna infiltrate right into the ground. It's got dynamite soils out there.
So what do? We focus on the wall
We,
and
we have some, we have further discussion for some order conditions and everything.
okay.
Right now, we're just working on the NOI part for the wall right now.
Okay,
And what's going on, but we have some order conditions we're going to discuss about the landscaping and everything else. So, if we're all set, I'm gonna ask the public if they have any. Anybody out in the public wish to comment? You gotta come to the podium, state your name and address.
Yes, I would like to make a comment.
Just state your name and address, please, at the podium.
I'll introduce myself. I'm Jim Craven, and I had been buying property on, if we call it a driveway, common land to drive in and out of there since 1984. I bought lot number 12, 10, 8, 6, and 4, I believe. Maybe not 4, but anyways, it's 5, I believe 5 parcels there. And we had a problem that existed when we first bought there. The water used to wash down the driveway continually in any rainstorm, and it pocketed in front of number, I'm going to say 214 and 216 at Demers, and it would flow in between both of those two into Massapog. As years went on, driveway, gutters, gullies changed to some degree, and the water started backing up more in, I'm going to say, 5 or 6 years ago. And I think I had approached the building inspector, and I'm not sure how we could go about getting a berm at the top of that driveway on Massapog Road, Pond Street, whatever we want to call it. And I thought that it would alleviate the problem at the time. I built a new one on 212, which is a question that's going to come up in a little bit here. That's what I'm here for. But to have a continuation of delay in the project that Costas and Sherry have done, they spent somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000 to correct the situation. 3 years ago, when we got a horrible rainstorm, it washed out, as you may have pictures of, a 4-foot gully from the back of 222 Massapog, went right down into Massapog. And to keep delaying this and delaying it, I can't see the gain in it. I haven't been coming to these meetings, and I haven't got involved in it, but since this has been going on, it seems to be getting, in my mind, out of hand. Am I wrong? You've got to tell me that. But I can't see the delay here any longer, and I would like to ask that you reconsider and stop the delays. And if I have to go to the town to have a berm built out on Massapog Road to stop any more flow, I will do that. In 1989, I went to the state because I wanted to put a new septic system in the area of the common land between the lake and the cottages. I went to the state to get a variance in the footage from the lake to the camps, cottages, whatever you want to call them, and they gave me a 25-foot variance. And in front of 212, I had to put a non-pervious barrier, which we did, and I believe what Costas and Sherry have done now, they have made more than adequate barriers there to protect from water flowing into the lake. I don't know what else I can say, but I am asking for that, and I know most of the other neighbors agree with what I'm saying.
Yeah, but we're only here for the after the fact if NOIs have not asked them for permission to do it first. That's the issue. We're not delaying nothing. We're just going through the legal process of doing it right. All right, if the plan come in front of us before, it probably wouldn't have been an issue at all. So that's the delay is that, because it's after the fact of doing the job, not coming in beforehand for permits. That is the delay.
Can I say, so what we see a lot now, it's not fair. It isn't fair to the people that go to the town, they sit with Pammy, they go through all the filing, there's a lot of work. Maureen, you know, the engineering. What hurts a committee like this, for the time that we put in, when somebody just takes it upon themselves and does what they want. That's what makes it harder for a committee like this to just turn our head to it. Because now we've set a precedent for the next person and the next person and the next person to just keep doing it. We can't look the other way now. And I believe, and I appreciate you coming here. Trust me, I've gone through a lot in the town, and that's why I sit on this board. I appreciate it a lot that you've stood up here and said what you have said. But the fact is, like the chair said, he took it upon himself to do what he wanted. That's all it is. We have tried to work with him, correct? This whole committee. Last time you were in, we were trying to sort the plantings. We were trying to sort everything out. And then we came down to this area with the wall. And we were trying to work out this area. And we're sitting here going, wow, to move all that out, because he put it in there with equipment, correct me if I'm wrong, right? It would have been a nightmare, an expensive nightmare, to pull it all out.
Correct.
Correct, so that's why we are doing the third after-the-fact NOI to properly permit it, to see if it can stay there. That is our process right now. He is not, this is what we're working on right now. We're working on the second NOI for the additional patio and the retaining wall, and we are working on a third NOI after the fact for the work done on the waterfront.
The reason the project was just held up is we just want to make sure that it was permitted properly through the state and through the town, since it wasn't the first time. That's all. That's why the project was held up a little bit. But it doesn't mean that we're planning on holding it up any further. We just want to make sure it's done the correct way, that it's permitted through the state the correct way, and it's permitted through our board the correct way. And then once we all come to an agreement, then the project will be able to continue, and he'll be able to finish doing the landscapes and the facades and the patios. So then the property will be able to be what it is and save the lake
And usable.
and, yeah.
You know,
And
that's
pa-
what, it's a beautiful job. We all looked at it, not once, three to four times.
And
From,
part,
from day one up to now, right, Costas?
And
We've
part-
always come out.
Yep.
and part of the landscaping was not done because he cost us asses if we could wait till the end of summer, because it was so dry, and you'd have to water it every single day. All right, so that's also, we agreed to extend the landscape, timeline.
So
Certain,
what does it need now?
So
we
we're
need-
just,
working on the NOI, we're working on the after effect, second NOI after the fact for the patio and the retaining wall and the landscaping plan. And then still has to continue to work on the third NOI after the fact for the granite and the sand put along the shoreline.
Say that again?
For which part? All of it? So, right now, so originally come in for us we got a complaint that he put in, an additional retaining wall and additional patios. The first NOI, when we, agreed upon it 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, was, actually it's 4 years ago now. When we agreed upon it was one retaining wall and one patio, and we allowed him to keep the sand and the steps on the water. So then he proceeded to do what he did, what he has now, and we got a complaint. So we went out there, there's an additional patios and there's an additional retaining walls. And there's more sand on the beach, and he put the granite along the beach, which I understand, I have beachfront property, so I understand erosion very well. All right, so originally, we could have made him take all the granite out and the sand out along the shore, because that's a third NOI after the fact, because you're raising the grade in the floodplain, and there's a few other things, land subject to, bordering vegetation, everything else, all right? I don't want to get into all the specifics, but, so that's what the third NOI is for that. So he has two NOIs going on right now. He has an enforcement order for the third, because until we have a correct plan, we can't do an NOI on it. So once he comes up with the correct plan for the wall, then, and we agree upon it, and DEP agrees upon it, he can proceed. Right now, he can proceed with his landscaping. We're not holding nothing up.
With the landscaping?
No, we haven't finished discussing this. We have some order conditions that we're gonna discuss right after we're done with the public part of the hearing.
So how long do you figure that it'll take to jump through this last hoop?
That's not long, hopefully by the next meeting or 2 meetings after.
probably the next meeting.
You cost, you
I've always been, I have been, yeah.
All right, well, thank you for the time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And should I stay up here because mine is the next issue?
We'll call you up.
We'll call you up. You gotta sit there on your next issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we should be all done with the,
You can come up.
I'm Sherry Craven-Anson.
Hi, Sherry.
You guys have seen me before. First, thank you for all your efforts and time. I know this is a little gone backwards, but I have to say, we didn't just go do what we wanted to do. We tried really hard to work with the team, and we did work with your previous chairman or director. And
I've been the chairman pretty much,
Probably the director then.
probably the director wasn't me, because,
okay, so Michelle was her name.
Yep.
Okay,
So
so
she
we
was
worked with her, and we worked closely with her. She came out a lot of times, 3 to 5 times coming out. We submitted plans, and I don't know, because I was not the detail-oriented person
I don't
working on this.
I don't want to interrupt you, but just so you understand, our director advises the board. Everything, every plan has to be voted on by the board.
Well, we've submitted them, and I just feel like there's been some mishaps, and we are trying to do it the right way. We've hired a specialist, we've
I
put things
understand.
on hold, and so I guess I just take offense when it's like, you're not doing it the right way. We are trying to do it the right way.
We didn't say you
We're
weren't doing it the
trying
right
to-
way. We said it was after the fact.
Yeah.
There was a comment about saying we just go do what we want to do. So I just feel like we were relying on someone and guiding us, and it did not work out.
So let me clarify. On the first NOI, after the fact, all right, the plan stated that it was one patio, one retaining wall. To change that, the new plans would have been brought in front of the board, and the board would have had to vote on it and okay it. DEP would have had to okay it. All right, so that's,
It's a very, I'm
so
not,
I'm just explaining to you the process. That is not what happened.
all I can say is that we were guided by someone who's no longer here, but I have the different plans, and the ones that you had up there were not the ones that we submitted, so I don't know what happened to
The
them.
plans we have are the ones that we originally agreed upon for the first NOI in 2020.
Anyway, well, thank you for your time.
Thank
We
you.
are trying to do our best, and we appreciate
And
everyone's efforts.
we've been working with Costas to
Yes, we have.
straighten this out. This is not something that we just said, well, this is not gonna happen. Tear it all out. We didn't do that.
We didn't do that.
He knows that, and that's why he's hired Maureen, Jeff's involved. He has a good crew now. What happened in the prior of that first NOI, that, just like other meetings, has never come in front of this board. This board is the one that makes the decision, not the director. The
The
director's job is to bring all this forward to us. She's the one that has the degree. And we haven't had that problem with two other directors. We had one come in that kind of ran ragged and did whatever she wanted, and she's
Okay.
cost this board
We
a
just-
ton of headaches.
Pat, we're just,
I know.
I know, but we're getting off subject, that's all.
But the subject here is, she's made a comment,
I understand.
and it's not the board. It has not been this board. We go above and beyond to help the town people. That's why I'm staying on this board, because I believe in the town, and I believe in the taxpayer, because the taxpayer is the ones that pay for everything in this town, not the builders that come in. The builders that come in, they rape the town, walk away, sell out, and they don't care. They don't care
Yeah.
about you.
Relevant
It's,
to this right now.
but it's,
I
this is
know,
what's
I
happening.
understand, I know. But
Costas knows that we've been behind him all the way.
Appreciate it.
We just have to answer for certain things. And that's what we're gonna do with him.
The only last comment I have is that the shorefront that you saw and you took pictures of, that shrubbery and everything that was no longer there had nothing to do with anything we did. It had to do with the 2 years of high water and lots of wakeboards that took away the shrubbery.
I understand very well. Like I said, I own waterfront property. And I have wakeboards and everything, every single day and every single night. They're out there. I understand it very well.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so can we close the public? Do we have to wait till the next meeting? Yeah, we have to wait till the next meeting. Yes, we'll have to wait. All right, so we cannot vote on this, but we do have some order of conditions we are gonna put on this project. So there's no miscommunication down the line. And no one can say I didn't, so all plantings listed under the erosion mitigation and landscaping project must be completed by the last week of November 24th. 2024, sorry. Once completed, the Conservation Director and the Conservation Commission Chairman must be notified and will review the planting for compliance. And this, as long as you're all comply, there's not a single issue with this.
Yep.
All right? And the reason we want the planting done is because there's a 2-year timeline on it. So we have to do annual inspections on it to make sure that it lives. So, November the ground might start freezing, but you can still get your plantings in because it will thaw out at whatever, the inch or two of frost you'll have. But at least it's in there and it'll be growing for next year. Otherwise, you're looking to 2027 for your last inspection. We'd rather get this done and grown and over and done with. That's why we're putting it, because we originally had a timeline on the planting, but we allowed you to continue it because of the dry drought summer we had. So, because it would be too hard to maintain it.
The next meeting is in 2 weeks, which I assume you're
Right.
gonna be on it. So
Right.
if everything goes through okay and we don't hear anything,
Right.
Maureen doesn't hear anything from DEP, I should be able to go ahead and start.
Yes.
Right,
And
right.
It'll enable me to go ahead and do the
Right.
landscaping at the same
Right.
time. Okay. Perfect.
But if it's not done, it will result in 300 fine per day until it is completed. All right? These are just ordering conditions to keep everything up and up. We've already discussed this before, but it's gonna be written on the ordering conditions. No more wood chips can be used throughout the landscaping within the 200 riverfront buffer. Because DEP doesn't want that either, and, you know, we allowed you to keep it there for erosion.
Okay.
All right? Any additional work done beyond approved plan result in immediate removal in our enforcement protocol referenced in the Tyngsborough wetland bylaws. All right, so that it's, again, if you do what you're supposed to, there's not a single issue with any of this.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right, because, you know, it's just as tough for us as it is for you.
Yeah.
And I've been on that side to do it, you know.
So can he close out the first order?
So the first order is just, it's done.
The first
Okay.
order was,
The second order? No, so the first DP number has expired, done.
Yeah.
It's-
I was thinking a certificate of compliance.
So he can, I talked to him last week about it. So I think what we're gonna do, so you can either submit the certificate of compliance right now for that DEP number.
Yeah.
Or like what I was saying, just so it makes more sense in his brain. Once he's done this project
This
for this
next one.
DEP number, he'll just submit both at the same time.
Yeah.
So cause I
Okay.
was talking to him about it.
Yeah.
And we were getting all
I
confused.
just wanna make
so-
sure that
Right,
it gets cleaned
right,
up,
right.
because,
Yes.
Yeah.
you
No,
know,
we
Okay.
talked about it, so we agreed that once he's completed with this DEP number, what he'll do is he'll just submit both for a certificate of compliance, and that will just close them both out at the same time.
okay,
and it's
perfect.
easier to keep track of, too.
Yep, okay.
And it made more sense
Yep.
between the both of us, and
Yeah.
whatever works for
Was
you,
easier, yeah.
works for us.
Okay.
Gotta come up to the podium again.
Public portion closed?
But we're not,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
We didn't make a motion to close.
No,
we didn't make.
we didn't make a motion to close.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I am part of the ownership.
Right, I understand that. That's why I'm
I just
on.
wanna, understand when you talk about what can be done and can't be done in the plantings.
So,
The planting can all be done.
yes.
The only reason the planting got halted was because Costas asked us, because my landscaper said I'd have to water it every day, which he would, and it would have to be twice a day. So because we originally had a timeline, we wanted it done by August. All right, so we said, yes, you can hold off till the, more fall time.
I
'Cause it-
understand the planting part.
Yeah.
I wanted to just ask, one, is it grass?
That's all part of the planting, that's all the landscaping plan.
Between the patio, the top, is additional patio, does that have to continue to be on hold?
Yeah, to putting the patio, in, yes.
Yes,
So no patio work?
Yes.
Grass, trees, shrubs?
yeah.
But
Yep.
does it make sense to do shrubbery and everything if we're gonna be asked to remove any part of the project?
The whole idea of us, the way we're doing it, is so you don't have to remove it.
Okay.
If DEP
Okay.
says you have to remove it, then you have to remove it. That's why we're doing the third NOI after the fact, is to
Okay.
do it legally, and DEP satisfied, and the board is satisfied. Otherwise, he would've had to remove it already.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yes, that's why we did this process.
Okay. So,
I need a motion to continue
Are you guys all in agreement? Do you wanna wait the 2 weeks, just in case DEP
for the
has
order of
anything?
conditions.
Yeah.
We're gonna wait for the, yeah.
We've waited this long, and we've been, Costas, we've been behind you.
Totally, I appreciate it, I
Yeah.
do. Yeah, I
This
noticed
was a
it.
lot of work.
Ton of work,
It
yeah.
looks beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
will say that.
Thank you.
Over and over and over.
Yeah,
It's just rules and,
I understand, totally.
You want it done.
Thank you.
Okay.
So can I have a motion to continue to the 27th?
I'll make a motion to continue this to the 27th.
Do I have a second?
Need a second?
Second that?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Move
very
to
much.
continue.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, 21 Chestnut Road, map 8, parcel 77-0, DEP number 3091019. Victor Fabru, applicant for after-the-fact notice of intent to permit a 33 by 24 garage with an in-law apartment above within the 200 riverfront buffer zone, continued from July 23rd, 2024. So no new information. Can I have a motion to continue to August 27th, 2024?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to what date?
August 27th.
To continue this hearing to August 27th, 2024.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed, continue to August 27th. Next item on the agenda, 19 Lawndale Road, map 26, parcel 33B, Daniel O'Connor, applicant for request for determination of applicability to replace a failed septic system with a new 1,500-gallon septic tank, 1,000-gallon pump chamber, and a new Presby Enviro septic leach field. Advertised in Lowell Sun, August 6, 2024.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself from this hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is a
Yep,
new hearing.
Yep, so I need a motion to waive the reading of the butters list in the
I'll make a motion
legal ad.
to move the abutters list.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, Pam, excuse me, the associates, you're gonna have to vote on this tonight. So you guys know, because we do not have a quorum right now.
Okay. Both of us are voting?
Yes. All right. Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening.
Oh,
Can you make a motion to allow the associates
yeah,
to?
so I need a motion to allow the associates to vote on this.
I'd like to make a motion to allow the two associates to vote on this.
I'll second that.
Thank
All in
you.
favor?
Aye.
Good.
Good evening, Jeff Hannaford here representing the applicant, Dan O'Connor, for a septic system upgrade at 19 Lawndale Road. I have a copy of the abutter notification certificates.
Thank you.
As well as two updated copies for the file of the plan and narrative. The issue is he's planning on selling the house. In so doing, he had a Title V inspection done. It failed the Title V inspection. The existing system is a septic tank and leach pit. The leach pit was found, the bottom of the leach pit was found to be in the water table, which is a failure criteria. So with that, we were contacted, and we did our soil testing. We had wetlands delineated. We did our survey, and then the actual design that you see tonight. The site is, as you can see, the dwelling, the septic system's to the rear, the well is to the right front corner. The 100-foot arc from the well takes up a good portion of the front of the house, the right side of the house, and a portion of the back. So we did our soil testing outside the 100-foot well radius. There's a large tree along the right side property line. It's one of only 2 trees in that rear yard. The rear yard's predominantly lawn area until you get down to, we do show a tree line at approximately the 30-foot setback. If It does encroach closer behind the existing barn. But other than that, going to the right-hand property line is all lawn area. It's a beautiful tree, it provides about the only shade in the rear yard. So we did what we could to save that. It's so large, we had to pay attention to the drip edge and the potential root ball for that. So that's the main reason we picked that location. It's just behind the 100-foot well radius and as close as we did to get to that tree. The wetlands come up the left side and turn around and go across the back of the property. So that also presented setbacks for us. With that, the existing leach pit is approximately 53 feet from the wetlands, and as I said, the bottom of it is in the water table. The proposed leach field is 94 feet from the wetlands, so it's quite a bit further. Because of the water table here, the new leaching area is a system infill. It will be a mounded system. With that, the fill on the downslope side of the system, in order to meet what we call breakout in a septic design, is enough fill on the sides to prevent any effluent from breaking out to the surface. That necessitates fill as close as 70 feet to the wetlands. The wetlands will be protected by erosion control, shown on the plan. There'll be a new septic tank installed, as well as a pump chamber, because as I mentioned, it is a mounded system, so the effluent has to be pumped up to that new leaching location. But clearly, the existing situation is the groundwater is being contaminated by the septic system. So this is a significant upgrade to that situation. The leach field we've chosen, the design, is a Presby EnviroSeptic type leach field. As far as Title V and DEP is concerned, they call that an innovative/alternative type system, or IA system for short. There's a number of them that have been allowed by DEP. The manufacturers that want to have their product used in this state have to apply to the state, to DEP. They have to go through a testing, piloting program. If they work as advertised, then DEP does issue an approval letter. Their approval letters always contain conditions on how and where these systems can be used. The Presby is important in an IA system because of the way it functions. It treats the effluent to a higher degree than a conventional system, and a higher degree to some more of the mild IA-type leaching systems. So with that, DEP approved it for repairs with a 50% reduction to the groundwater offset. So instead of 4 feet above groundwater, it can be installed at 2 feet. However, the Board of Health, because of the situation with the distance to the wetlands and the fact that it was a pump system, and Title V does say, even on a repair, that the goal is full compliance. But they recognize we're dealing with existing conditions. So with that, we could have reduced it down to 2 feet. After talking with the Board of Health, because it is a pump, we chose a 3-foot offset to the water table. So we reduced it by 1 foot from the 4 foot that's full compliance. The reason we did that is to grade on the uphill side of the system in a manner that water will shed around the system and not pond behind it. If we went to the full 4 feet, it would have caused a problem with water, because the water slopes from right down to the left to where the wetlands are. So we kind of compromised on 3 feet, and we're able to work the grading so that we won't have a ponding problem on the uphill side, and we'll be able to create a much better situation for treating the effluent before it gets into the groundwater, which of course is the goal of all leaching systems, is treat the effluent but allow the water portion to pass through the soil and recharge the groundwater. So we went to the Board of Health last night. They approved the variances and the plan, so they're ready to issue their permit this week, pending the outcome tonight.
I know the area well. I really don't have a problem with it. It's taking care of an existing problem, making it better, but I drive by it every day.
Yeah, if you're familiar with the Sherburne property
Yeah.
that the town took over, that's
Lawrenceburg,
to the rear.
I
of
always
this-
watch
this
Lawrenceburg and
site.
everything driving through there, so very well know
Jeff.
the area.
That 1 foot difference makes that much of a change? The 1 foot height?
And the grading?
Yeah,
Yeah.
from 2 feet to 3 feet. Well, no, I don't have a problem with it.
Robert,
I have no problem with it. Sounds like an upgrade.
Yeah.
With that.
Jason, you have any comments?
Nope, very straightforward.
Enrique, you have any comments?
No, definitely need it.
Can I get a motion to approve it?
Are you gonna
Oh.
open it to the public first?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Need a motion to open up the public part. I forgot I was in the hearing.
Like to
Mr.
ma-
Chairman, I can make a motion to open to the public portion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody in the public have any comments or questions? Can I get a motion to close the public part of the hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to close, make a motion to close the public hearing.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public part of the hearing is closed. Do I have a motion to approve it?
Okay?
Yep, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to issue a negative determination of 19 Lauderdale Road, with plan dated on 8/12/2024.
And there's a second on that, too.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Opposed? No. It's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, 212 Massapog Road, map 2, parcel 30-0, Chris Anson, applicant for request to determine applicability to construct a 35-inch by 27-foot L-shaped stone retaining wall around existing berm of land advertised in the Lowell Sun, August 6, 2024.
Mr. Chair, this is a new hearing.
So,
The legal add in of butters, reading of the abutters list.
yep, do I need a motion to waive the reading of the legal ad in the abutters list?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading of the legal ad and the abutters list.
Let's do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
State your name and address, please.
Sherry Anson, my home address?
Yes.
564 Northfield Road, Lunenburg. I'm standing in for
Yeah,
Chris Hansen.
yeah.
That's fine.
So Emily and I, do you want me?
We received a complaint
Complaint.
that there was a wall being built within the 30-foot buffer of Lake Massapog. So that is under our Tyngsborough Wetlands Protection Bylaw, that is not under the Wetlands Protection Act. So we went out, took a look, I contacted the homeowner, just Chris, her son. We talked about it, he came in, and we are now here to get it approved.
It's just being built around a already existing wooding one. They're not raising the grade, they're not changing nothing.
So they're repairing an old wall.
Yeah, so in your packets, Chris wrote a very nice narrative describing the work that he has done.
And there is a tree between the two houses that this retaining wall keeps the dirt in place for the roots. So,
I guess, do you guys have anything to add?
No, happy to answer any questions, or I could try.
You got a picture?
Yeah,
Do I
They're
introduce
good.
myself again? huh?
you can
do
say
they have the
who you
pictures in
are.
their
Yeah.
packet?
Yeah.
He's also owner, he
Yeah.
thought he should introduce
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
I mean, Emily and I know it. 'cause
At
we have
212,
both.
I'm the other half of Craven and Anson.
So basically, it describes that he's constructing an L-shaped wall, all hand-done masonry work, so your typical retaining wall blocks, whatever size, they're the smaller size stones. He said it's roughly 35 feet from the shoreline of Lake Massapog. The elevation change is very drastic compared to if you look at Casas is a little more slight of a slope. When you go to this property, it's much more steeper of a slope, so there is a big elevation change. And the area that they were putting the wall is a very common area I assume you guys hang out in. It looked like it was commonly used during the summer season.
Pam, can you open the pictures? Sorry to interrupt you. Can you open the pictures too while
I didn't add it.
Oh, I thought there was.
But he put
Yeah.
a photo in his
Yeah,
narrative.
right. Okay.
So basically, there's a berm there was a tree growing between it, it's right on the edge of the property for 214. The side of the berm that faces the lake was held up by a railroad tie retaining wall. It's slowly deteriorating. And he was saying it was causing a lot of erosion, and he didn't want to lose the tree nor the berm. Because then that not only affects his property, but it affects the neighbors. So we basically constructed the wall, so it's right in front of where the old railroad tie retaining wall, so to say, is, and then he just made an L shape so that it's parallel to the house. And then he's described in his narrative that he was just gonna backfill with natural loam, kind of even it out, but then nothing else would be done to the property.
So they're gonna replace this piece and go straight up?
So yeah, I guess my question is, did you guys proposing to pull out the old railroad ties, or are you just gonna leave them?
Left them right there. So we disturbed nothing other than level the 8 inches of ground that we needed in front of the railroad ties, 8 by 12. That's what it is. I have more blocks in my fireplace than I have in that wall. And the fireplace is closer to the water. Enough said.
Do you guys have any questions for them? So they're here sitting in for Chris. Chris doesn't live in the US, so he had to.
Oh, I don't have a problem, especially they had to do a repair to start with, which is important. I love stone walls, so you're talking to the right guy.
Much better than the railroad ties.
That's
Those
right,
railroad
absolutely.
ties were set in there in the late 1800s.
Yeah.
All right, so everybody's on the board, all set?
Just a couple
Oh,
of quick,
okay.
simple questions. So the project really didn't entail, as I understand it right, from the narrative that was written, and thank you very much for doing that, makes things so much easier. It didn't require any additional grading, it's nothing like that. And there's no additional stabilization, that's a pretty big bank, there's nothing required for that and going on about that.
No,
It's all done by hand.
it was all done by hand, yes?
Yep.
The wall is already constructed?
Yeah.
Yes.
It was in the beginning stages when we were called about the complaint, so what I saw was just the base gravel that was done in 1 or 2 inches of the wall was completed, but,
And it's a project that when I got the building permit in 2016, it's a project that kind of went in with the rest of the house.
yeah. And then I guess the only other question I had is, when we went out for the, complaint, we noticed when you're going down the steps to the lake access at the property, there was I don't know if it was for this project or whatever, there was some earth, soil dumped to the side, like down the bank. We were just asked if you guys could remove that, so it doesn't just wash down into the lake.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a little
That was
pile.
just like a pile of
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah,
that
it's
was
just
in
as-
that area.
I just saw it and I didn't know it was part of the project or not, but I figured I'd bring it up since you guys are in front of us
It was a
tonight.
depression that we had filled in.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So if you guys just could clean it up so it doesn't erode too much of the extra soil into the lake, I would appreciate that.
She's my hearing aid.
He unearthed those stairs by hand,
Oh, my.
and
Rebuilt
you
those
could not see those
Oh, wow.
until 2 years ago.
about
And
2
so
years
that
ago.
That was some of the dirt and debris on those stairs over time. Because sometimes it washes down.
Oh, yeah, that
those
makes sense.
overflow.
Do you guys have any other questions?
I don't never know.
Public hearing?
Yep. Can I get a motion?
Mr.
to
Chairman,
open
I'd like to make a motion to open the public portion of the hearing.
I'll
Do I have a
second
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody in the public have any questions, comments? Can I get a motion to close the public portion of the hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
Can I have a second?
that. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Can I get a motion to issue a negative determination for 2012 Massapog Road?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for a negative determination for 212 Massapog Road.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And we'll send the, I'll send you an email if you want the hard copy sent to this house address or to your house address, because I don't know if somebody is currently moving around in that house or not, or if it's just gonna sit in the mailbox.
You can just send it to the 212.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Perfect.
fine. Yeah, we collect the mail.
Okay.
It doesn't get to Kenya, though.
Thank you,
Well,
guys.
good?
Yep, all
Have a
set.
Thank you.
One down, one to go.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
Next item on the agenda, 59 Althea Ave, map 33, parcel 53-0, Steve Putnam, applicant for notice of intent and stormwater management permit, to raise and rebuild an existing single-family dwelling, deck, porch, walkway, driveway, subsurface sewage disposal system, well, rooftop infiltration, driveway infiltration, landscaping wall and grading, and associated utilities. Advertised in the Lowell Sun, August 6, 2024.
This is a new hearing.
Can I get a motion to waive the reading of the abutters list and the legal ad?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading of the abutters list and the legal ad.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, do we have to wait for Pat, so we have a quorum? I don't know. Or,
I can pass out the plans.
yep.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, he's back.
Pat, we need you to, approve the waiving of the legal ad and the abutters list.
I approve it.
Huh?
I'll approve it.
Okay, so it's approved.
Sorry.
So good evening, everyone. Maureen Harold, Norse Environmental Services. Here beside me is Steve Putnam, owner of the property. So this property is just 14,716 square feet, abuts Althea Lake. The single-family dwelling was built in 1950, so it obviously predates the Wetland Protection Act as well as the Tyngsborough Wetland Protection Bylaw and regulations. What we'd like to do is raise this dwelling. I'm not sure if any of the commission has been out, but it's fairly dilapidated, it's in poor shape. We'd like to tear it down and construct a new dwelling, deck, driveway, and septic system as well. We're only slightly increasing the impervious area. So the existing impervious area is 3,142 square feet. We're proposing 3,157 square feet, so it's a net increase of 15 square feet. We're also providing infiltration in the terms of a driveway infiltration trench as well as rooftop infiltration. We're also improving the site by incorporating a septic system. Right now, there's an existing leach pit on the property itself. The commission, as you are well aware, has a 30-foot no disturb as well as a 50-foot no structure. So we are requesting waivers from the 30-foot no disturb and the 50-foot no structure. The waiver is specifically within the no disturb to allow the existing lawn area to remain that is within the 30-foot no disturb. The 50-foot no structure on the plans that you have is highlighted in an orange color. So the existing house itself, the closest corner just about kisses the 50-foot. The new house is proposed within it, but that's to comply with the local zoning regulations that's required for new homes. So that's why we shifted the house a little bit closer to the lake than where it is right now. I can open it up to the commission with any questions or concerns.
Anybody have any comments?
On the septic, is that a failed system now? Or is it in compliance with Title V either?
I mean, it's just a leach pit, so I don't believe it's
No, it's not.
currently in compliance. And has anybody been in the house living there?
No. I know the area well.
Okay, it didn't look
State
that
Forest
way,
entrance is right there, right?
but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no. I don't think anybody's been in there for quite a while.
Couple of years, yeah.
That alone's a big improvement, just to do this project.
Right.
So one of the questions that I had as I reviewed this, I mean, this is kind of a, a bigger project for a little piece of property and stuff like this. And when I looked at the existing grading going down, it's hard for me to envision how additional grading isn't going to be required moving down that bank towards the water. And that was my question is that, is there any additional tree removal going on, anything for bank stabilization, a plant plan? Those things aren't mapped out, and I'm curious about it.
So what is this? This is a 20 scale.
Yeah.
So, where the erosion controls are, that's in an orange color, okay? So we have an existing shed that would like to remain.
Yep.
The erosion controls are in front of that shed. The closest point where the erosion controls is near that wetland flag 4A. And that's essentially to remove a fence that's located there that we'd like to rip out. In terms of vegetation, my recollection is a lot of this area is overgrown with shrubby.
It's just shrubs, there's no trees, really.
Yeah, just like overgrown and just hasn't been
So
maintained.
is that the plan to keep it that way?
No, we wanna, no. We'd essentially, we'd like to do all of the work within the erosion controls if possible. Clean it up, tear the house down and make it look great. Put in a new septic system, have it be a functioning, livable home.
So there will be grading going on in that area.
There is some grading, so you can see here, there's a 158 contour.
Yeah, I see that on
The
it.
156 contour, tie into the 156, 158. The septic system will be 160, and that's about 157.4 near this corner. So that's, 2.5 feet. We do have a landscape wall along the easterly property line, to just help contain the grading onto the
Yep.
site itself. But honestly, it's not too bad in terms of grading. It's not some lots where you're just dropping off.
Right.
I feel like it's pretty minor considering it's a small lot.
Pat, you have any questions?
Do you plan on putting any bushes or shrubs in here after you've cleaned this whole area out?
I don't really have much of a
Much
plan at all.
room,
I
yeah,
mean,
because you got the septic and the leach field.
Yeah, I'm saying where they were talking about moving the fence out and cleaning up, Eddie, up in this area here.
Right around here.
Along the lake,
Yes.
lakeside.
So I
mean-
guess what's like, were you able, did you walk the property?
Yes.
So what's, I guess, to kind of what Jeff and Pat are saying, like, what's the current state of the bank in like the 30-foot buffer zone, like landscape-wise? And would any of the grading or, I guess, removal of the fence, like, affect it? And or are you proposing to improve it?
I didn't walk it, but like a lot of that shoreline owners got phragmites and cattails on that whole side of Althea.
There's some shrubby
In some
growth along the
Yeah.
lake. There's some dogwood, my recollection. There's some red maple trees. We're not proposing to cut those or anything. They'll remain in place. I'm trying to think, beyond the shed, there was maybe a little bit of grass over here, is that
Can't re-
correct?
Yeah, from the road, you can't see really beyond the house,
Right.
because it's all shrubbery brush around the front and the sides of the house. You really can't
I mean,
see beyond it. I haven't been on Althea in a long time to see, remember what the shore looks like over there.
Yeah.
it used to be all dog pens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of like pea stone and stuff like that
Yeah.
on the ground. I mean,
So I guess
Pretty close to-
ideally, once you guys clean it up, you'll just sod it
yeah,
as a normal lawn?
yeah.
Okay, and then just not touch anything along the shoreline?
Right, I mean, the only reason why that closest point near 4A is just to get rid of that
Fence,
fence
yeah.
that's there.
And I had a question about the recharge system.
Okay,
Is that gathering water from both the front and the back of the house? And how is that getting over to that?
so the house will have gutters on it that will direct the water into the recharge system. So we have one in the front. I thought I saw another one on this plan.
Yeah, I only saw one, so,
One on the left front.
Infiltration trench, so there's just one in the front. And then we have the infiltration trench for the driveway, which is, 1 foot deep, 2 feet wide for the driveway.
so is that infiltration system gathering water from both the front and the back of the house?
Yes, because the house will have gutters to direct the water into the recharge system.
And is that shown on here?
So there's a detail right here of the recharge system.
Yep, I saw that.
In terms of calculations, I don't have those on the plan, but I can get them for you if you want to see.
Yeah, no, I'm assuming that you've gone through the calculations. I looked at the Caltech webpage, and actually, I was going to ask, could you describe how that system works a little bit for my own edification?
Sure. So the Caltech system has to be a minimum of 2 feet above the estimated seasonal high water. It's like a plastic long piece that gets connected to the downspouts that runs along the edge of the house, that runs into the system underground, and it's surrounded by a 6-inch stone base, 1.5-inch to 2-inch diameter washed stone, and it's gotta be a minimum of 10 feet from the foundation.
Yeah, as I read about it, it seemed a perfect alternative for this particular project, given this lot size and how close everything is, and given the soils and such.
I mean,
But it wasn't clear to me in particular, is it gathering water from both the front and the back of the house?
I guess maybe to explain it better, because we talked about it, so obviously the house, it will teeter both ways, so we just didn't know is if the back gutters will just downspout into the yard like a typical downspout of the gutter? Or will those back gutters that collect the rainwater that falls that direction somehow still be connected to the infiltration system underground?
So that's a good question. So I don't have the house plans, but I'm sure you're right about the roof line. You know, you can obviously run the gutters around the house so it comes down to this one spot.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
We were just curious, considering
Right.
that you guys were putting it in there, if you were collecting all runoff, or if some of the runoff was gonna just naturally downspout, like if at a typical home.
I don't know, and it's a question for I need to ask the engineer, if this Caltech system accommodates the entire roof, or maybe just like the street side of the roof.
Right.
You know, I'm not sure.
And if it doesn't, I'd like to see some type of infiltration around the downspouts on, you know, the side
backside,
closest to the lake.
Okay.
Could they propose a second recharge system for
Good.
backs?
Could also.
Yeah,
be-
it may not need it, we're not sure what's
It
going
can
on.
also be just stone too.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be,
Stone pit?
yes.
We were just curious, so it was one of the questions that came
'Cause
up
that's
when
what-
reviewing.
That's what we allowed on the house that got built on the same street.
I just don't think that would mean, because if you
Right.
just let it fall off, it's gonna
Right, it'll-
fall on
right,
the deck and then.
right.
And that may be the only alternative, because if the back of the house isn't accommodated for, the water table is obviously higher towards the back, so that might be the only alternative, is like a drip line trench or something of that matter. But I can check, I'm not sure.
All right, so, any other questions from anybody on the board? So, we'd like
I
to,
haven't seen any comments for DEP, so you guys are welcome to give it tonight, or if you wanna give it 2 weeks to see if we get any comments back.
I'd rather
I
wait.
mean,
to
I
see-
personally think the project's pretty straightforward, but
Right,
it's up to the board.
I prefer to wait 2 weeks, just because we've, too much lately, the DEP's been getting us after, approve everything. That's all, but I don't really have a problem with the project at all.
And it will answer Jeff's question, so.
Yep.
Yep.
And I would like to thank you again for the really nice narrative.
Oh, not a problem.
So are we fine with continuing it?
Do you wanna open the public portion of it?
Do I have a motion to open up the public portion of the hearing?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to open the public part of this hearing.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Anybody in the public have any comments, questions? Do I have a motion to close the public
Chairman,
part
I-
of the hearing?
Prefer to leave it open. and-
Open.
Oh, yes, we have to leave it open. Yes, we have to leave it until the next meeting.
So,
All right,
And that,
so do I have a motion to continue it to August 27th?
I'm on vacation that week, but I can get,
You don't have to be here.
thank you, that's what I just wanted to be sure. I will get the answer to your question
Yep.
before that and email Emily. Sure. And then go from there.
It seems like more than 50% of our projects lately, we get the questions after we approve it. I
Yeah,
mean, the-
it's
the
not, it
comments
has nothing
after.
to do with the application, it's just that we've been, I don't know if it's just Tyngsborough, but I felt like the last couple of projects we've had, there's been, as soon as the commission has gone to approve it, we get the comments like the next day, so.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure that
That's
nothing
fine.
comes down the pipeline.
Okay, no
But neither
problem.
one of you really have to be here for us to
No,
approve it.
neither of you theoretically have to be here,
All right, great,
All right,
thank you.
so.
so we're gonna do motion, I need a motion to continue it to the 27th?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue 59 Althea Avenue until August 27th,
I'll second that.
2024.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
aye.
Oh, aye. Opposed? None? So continue to August 27th. Thank you.
Thank you, have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Vacation.
Thanks.
Next item on the agenda. I can read it, but Jeff, you have to take over. 90 Westford Road, map 21, parcel 5-0, Tyngsborough Sportsman Club, applicant for notice of intent to replace a wooden retaining wall with new 24-inch concrete block retaining wall install a canopy, a boardwalk on an existing walking trail, replace the shed, and do invasive species removal. Advertised in the Lowell Sun, August 6, 2024. I have to recuse myself because I am a
Recuse
member of the
myself.
sportsman club.
A few plans here.
So Jeff, you're in command.
So we're really in trouble now.
Do we have a quorum? So we only have four?
So then Jeff has to.
I'll take care of it. So, make a motion, or Enrica can make a motion to allow the associates to participate in, or vote for this hearing.
But this is a new reading,
Yes, yes.
so,
Make the motion to waive the legal ad and then make that motion again.
okay. Can I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, substitute chairman? Can I make a motion to allow the legal ad to vote?
Waive the legal ad and a butters list.
Oh, waive the reading of butters.
So we have a motion to waive the reading of the butters list and the legal ad. Do I have a second? Oh, but don't we need to vote them in first?
Okay, so, go ahead, sorry.
So we need a motion to allow our associates to participate and vote in the meeting?
Can I make a motion to allow the associate to vote for this meeting?
Have a motion, second? Oh.
I'll second that.
Oh, that would be me.
Yep, you can second. Yeah.
Second.
Chair would, yep.
Okay,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
okay, so
All
now-
right, now can I please, can I make a motion to waive the reading of the butters list?
In the legal ad.
And the,
Have a motion, second?
I'll second the motion to waive the reading of the abutters list and legal ad.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's
With the-
approved. Mr. Hannaford.
You probably didn't have a chance to get my email.
I got your email, didn't have a chance to print them out.
I printed them out.
Oh, you did? Okay.
But
Thank
the
you.
now-
Yeah.
He also brought copies too, so.
Thank you.
That's a big project.
For the record, Jeff Hannaford, representing the applicant, Tyngsborough Sportsman's Club, for property at 90 Westford Road. This project is primarily about maintenance. And what is sometimes typical with maintenance projects is it starts out for one reason, and then as you look around, you find other things that you should get to as well. So with that, for the rear of the property, there is a pond and an outdoor shooting range. And at the edge of the shooting range towards the pond is a wooden retaining wall. It's only about 2 feet in height. It's not a major wall, but it's been there for some time. It's deteriorated, it's rotting, it's falling apart, it's beyond repair. So the first idea was the retaining walls got to be replaced. And we've been out there, we looked around, and there were other issues that I believe it was one of the previous agents, Danielle, that had looked at the site and noted a few other things. One is there's some invasive species, bittersweet, that's taking over in the buffer zone. There's also walking trails that are adjacent to this same area that go off into the wooded section. And it was noted that at the beginning of that trail, it actually goes through a small portion of the wetland. And at the same time, there is an old shed there that's, from what I've been told, it's been there since the late 30s. Again, in such disrepair that it should be replaced. So in further discussions, there were other things that were talked about as far as the walkway going through the wetlands. It was suggested that rather than move it and have it to cut trees and make more of a mess, than that we'd just construct a boardwalk and go over the wetlands and then let the wetland revegetate naturally without foot traffic interfering. So that's part of what we're here for. The invasive species, they'd like to remove by hand as much as they can. Bittersweet's very invasive. It's impossible to get 100%. But if you work hard at it, make as good an initial cutback as you can, if you then maintain and plant species that are hardy enough to withstand the bittersweet, then you have a chance of at least keeping it at bay. So that's also part of it. In the middle of the retaining wall is an old windmill. In order to make room for the new wall, the windmill will be removed. In the shooting area, this area here, this is the wall in the pond. This area here, you can see there's some concrete walkways, and it creates 4 little isolated areas that are actually lawn between the walkways. They'd like to eliminate the lawn. It will cut down on maintenance, having to mow and take care of it. So they'd like to put in patio-type paver blocks. It'll be much less maintenance, and it's a lot more sturdy for the participants that have to walk through there. So that's become part of it as well. And lastly, this is an area that's wide open, and when the participants are there during a day, there's no shade from the sun. There's no way to get out of the sunlight when it's not their particular turn up in the range. So they were looking for something to create a cover to provide some shade. And so they've come up with an idea on a small canopy, about 13 feet wide, that would span along the wall. And that's where the benches are, where people sit when they're not shooting. But that's brand new in the application process, to the point where we don't have finished design plans on what that will be. What I'm told is it'll be 4 columns, 1 at each end and 2 towards the middle, creating 3 sections. From there, the canopy would be cantilevered front and back. So these will be fixed to piers in the ground, concrete piers. But obviously, that's got to be engineered, and I need those details to be able to put together a more exact location and how it's going to work with that retaining wall. But it is something that is in the works. So I did want to at least show that tonight, but would leave that as an item that we would return to at some point. When we have more details, we can submit, they can be reviewed, and then we can meet again and as an amendment to this filing. And just to give you an idea, it was one of the main reasons to include as many things as I could think of is, and a good reason why you should have waived the reading of the abutters, is because there were approximately 60 abutters that had to be notified, and to refile for something and go through that process again just didn't make sense to me. So it's not that I didn't care about presenting as much information as I could. I do, but I just felt it was a wise decision to include things, even though we may not have all the answers to that canopy. Likewise, once the invasives are removed, we haven't settled on exactly what we're gonna replant in place, other than it will be native species. So we thought that at that time as well, we would present more definitive planting plans, what may be available, the time of year, et cetera, that we could submit. It could be reviewed, and if felt that it was significant, we could do an amendment and come back. Otherwise, maybe it's simple enough to be handled between the applicant and the agent. But that's, of course, your call. So with that, in front of you, you have an up-to-date narrative. The resource areas at the site are bordering vegetated wetland and land under water bodies, which is the pond. It is a buffer zone project, with the exception of that boardwalk. And when I thought about it, the question is, are we altering a resource area? And I kind of chuckled and thought, well, actually what I'm trying to do is unalter a resource area. We will be doing work, if you have a chance to look at the details on the plan for the boardwalk. It'll be suspended above the resource area by way of screw anchors. They're very non-invasive. You don't need equipment, you're not digging holes, you're not pouring concrete in sonotubes. These get effectively drilled down into the soil. And you can affix brackets to the top of them. So the idea would be, screw the anchor in, there'd be 2 of them at the beginning of each section, and then 2 at the end. My design was to do the boardwalk in 8-foot long sections, 2x6s with 1x6 planking. So the anchors would be at either end of the 8-foot sections until we're across. So it'd be basically foot traffic to do that, not machinery. So it's no more invasive than what's already been happening, no more alteration than what's been experienced over the years with that trail. When you're out there, this time of year, when it's dry, you don't really notice that you're in a wetland going through there. But especially after last year with the amount of water we had, it really showed itself more. And when the botanists went out, they confirmed, because we had them look at that area distinctly for that. And they came back and said, no, because of the soils, even though the foot traffic is kind of worn out, some of the vegetation, it did come back as jurisdictional. With the exception of that, we are doing all work in the buffer zone. As I mentioned, it's primarily maintenance work. So I know that your local regulations do have certain setbacks for new construction when it comes to existing, whether it's renovating or maintenance. It's under your 5.5.2.3 is, it's on a case-by-case basis. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Are you going to protect the wetlands? Why you are? Because of the pond primarily, and that bordering with vegetated wetlands, with what's existing, to try to move all of that, meet the 50-foot setback from some of this would be just impractical, considering how long it's been there. This gun club's been there, I think, since at least the 50s. So we're talking about things that I think should be grandfathered. The retaining wall will be replaced with precast concrete blocks on a crushed dome bed. That can be done, again, it's the least intrusive method. You're not pouring concrete, that type of thing. And there's already the perfect access to the area. There's actually a paved drive down to that area. So when the trucks come in, they're on a very good wearing surface. We don't have to worry about any sort of disturbance of soil where we could cause erosion. We do propose erosion control between the work and the pond. Right now, it's lawn area between the two. But the idea would be to get a small excavator in there, excavate out the existing timber wall and some amount of material behind it to make room for the new one. A dump truck can be parked on the high side away from the pond, and the excavator can just grab what he can and immediately deposit it into the dump truck. So there'd be no stockpiling of the material. Get that out of the way. Same excavator would dig a trench for the bedding for the wall. Again, the dump truck could be on the high side, adding the crushed stone and create the bed, and then the blocks can be set in place again from the high side, not the pond side, and minimizing any disruption on that side of the wall. Again, it's not a high wall. It's basically 2 blocks, and one of the blocks is partially buried as in the bedding. So it's not much work, and it's much more of a permanent fix. I think better environmentally than rotting wood. So I just think it's obviously a necessary fix, and it's being done in the way that we think is the least intrusive way. With that, again, buffer zone project, we have erosion control proposed. As far as the local regulations, the case-by-case basis pretty much touches on each one of the items I listed. I think it's a good thing to get in there by hand and try to remove as much as possible of that bittersweet. I know my wife and I had a very significant problem with it where we are now, to the point where we had to hire a professional firm to come in. We had, it was probably 5 times the size of the area we're looking at here. And it was so mature, some of the vines were literally this big in diameter. It had killed 50-foot pine trees already. And so we had to have a professional come in and take care of that. So I know how bad it can be if you don't attack it and try to stay after it. This is at a point where it can be done by hand. It hasn't had a chance, but it's starting. If you know how it works, the vines braid amongst themselves, and then they braid around trees, and they literally choke them. So it's at a point now where it would be the time to do it, and you'd be able to get a fairly successful removal by hand. But it is very close to the wetlands, so it is work in that 30-foot no disturb that you typically wouldn't allow. But in this case, I think it's something that is just good management and maintenance of the site. And then to plant something like maybe a mountain laurel or something hardy enough that, and then continue to hand remove when you do see things trying to come back and reestablish. And then there's the shed. The original shed's not a prefab shed like we all see today. It's an odd shape, odd size rather. So they want to replace it with a prefab. So it's not the exact same size. It's a little bit bigger, maybe a foot or so in each direction. But it'll be set on concrete blocks, not a permanent structure. It's used for storage for work on the pond The pond, they do stock it and they do have fishing tournaments there for veterans. They aerate the pond and they also treat the pond. So the equipment for that primarily is in this shed. With that, I think even though these are items that are closer to wetlands than you would like to see or typically see, it's the way it's been, and they're just trying to upgrade and get things in a better situation than they found them now.
So does anyone from the commission have any questions?
I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman.
I do, as always. One of the things I don't understand, or at least running over the narrative and such, is what has been fully decided upon and what are we still waiting for information on?
The canopy and the plantings of the native species after the invasive removal.
And one of the-
Otherwise, I think we've got everything pretty well nailed down.
So, but even at that, I looked at some of this. So the new shed is going to be put into the same place as the old one was.
Yep.
Where I get really hung up, though, is really in the boardwalk across the wetlands. I understand what you're doing there, but I know this type of thing, we've run into issues with this, in particular with DEP, about providing specific details around what the materials are, how this is going to be done, how high above the wetlands is it going to be, all that type of information. Emily, can you add to that, or?
No, you pretty much touched upon it. I know you explained exactly how the screws are going in. But yeah, I think looking to see height from the base of the wetland to where the boardwalk will lay, thinking about possibly, if it's only a foot or so off, maybe 1 foot higher to allow light for vegetation growth. I don't know, just like stuff like that. And then I know it's hard to quantify the square footage disturbance, and I know it's like an interesting situation just because the existing path does walk through it, so it's already is being disturbed, but maybe trying to quantify the amount of disturbance that the screw anchors will do to the BBW.
And then I'm sorry, regarding the screw anchors, I'm sure you would have a specification on what's gonna be used?
Yeah, there's
How do
various
they get installed without-
manufacturers.
How do they get installed without equipment?
They can be done by hand or by, like a battery-operated hammer drill, unless they want to run an extension cord, an electric hammer drill. But they come in various sizes. The ones I've used on other projects, they're usually only 1.5 to 2 inches. We had a project in Westford on Nabnasset Lake, and the house was torn down and rebuilt, but the house sat probably 30 feet above the lake. And there was an old stairway that went down, and it wasn't safe, it had to be rebuilt. And the contractor used these, and it was probably anywhere from 2-to-1 to 3-to-1 slope for quite a distance. And he would set these and create landings, and then stairways to each landing as it went down. And it was amazing how sturdy those were. And especially on a slope like that too, to find something that was stable enough. And it was actually very simple. And it's something that you can, it lends itself to a very easy built-in-place situation where you would like I said, take a hammer drill and put like a socket on it, because these come with, again, it changes by manufacturer. Some of them have just a square top to it, almost like a bolt. Sometimes are hex shaped, and you get the socket for that, and you just drill it down into the ground. Now, this is only holding up a boardwalk. It's not a structure of any major significance. Some of these, you know, are designed to hold 5,000 pounds, you know, of structure. We're not anywhere near that. So something smaller, you know, 12 to 18 inches deep will be enough in this soil. Then on the top, you can add brackets. So if you say, we want a height above the resource area, the bracket, you can either, you can buy, I've probably seen them, but if you're doing decks, you can buy these brackets for 4x4 posts that have a hole in the bottom that you can bolt to something. So I envision these you can get with, they're already pre-threaded. Once you take the top off that you use to screw it into the ground, you can get them with threads. You take a bracket, thread it on, bolt it down, and then you could put a 4x4 post cut to whatever height you want, and then attach the boardwalk to that. So if there's a DEP policy that says we like X amount of inches or feet above, I envisioned, you know, probably 12 to 18 inches. You know, the ground's gonna be undulating, the boardwalk's gonna be flat. So it is gonna be a little different depending on where you are, but not knowing if there is a policy, I would have envisioned, you know, just building it to take off at the beginning and go, you know, 12 to 18 inches, but keep it uniform until you get to the other side. So, you know, you're really only drilling very small, 2-inch diameter maybe here, and then 8 feet away, 2 more and 8 feet. It's such an incredibly small amount that I can't imagine it. Other than that, I don't know how you suspend it. I mean, you could, the alternative is to put sonotubes in concrete piers, but that's a much larger disturbance. We found these work really well. They're so minimal and the simplicity, speed of doing it, that's what I envisioned.
Will it help you to make a decision if they provide the specs on these posts to submit it to
Yeah,
the
certainly I
DEP?
think we need more information about how that boardwalk is going to be constructed, and more details on the materials. Is it just simply wood as kind of described here, or
Well,
would it be?
yeah, I described pressure-treated 2x6s, 4 feet wide, so it'd be 2 feet on center, running 8 feet at either end, a double header, so you can attach one to the next, and then 1x6 pressure-treated planking. I would assume probably a space, I don't know in the DEP policy, if there is a policy, but I've always heard that you want a space, you want to let some sunlight through to
Right.
the resource area underneath. It's actually a very simple, you know, 2x6s, 2 feet on center, running 8 feet. Put one at a 2x6 at the end, a header, another one, and start your next section.
Yeah, I just,
You know,
it's my thought we need more detail on this. I think the DEP is going to come back and have questions about this, because it is regardless of how short it is, it's a wetland crossing. We've just recently had someone come in who was proposing something actually much longer, but there was an awful lot involved with putting together, and he's still working on a plan for that. But, how far, I would want to know how far out of the wetlands is it going to extend to? How high above? What is the spacing between the boards? What exactly, pressure treated wood, is that fine, or? Just the other details, and actually, I'd like to see, specifically what anchors you have in mind, so I have a better idea on,
Yeah, I could get some, it'll probably be up to the contractor, whatever their supplier supplies, so.
or something representative.
Right, yep.
We can get the specs only from the manufacturer, any manufacturer, then we should have the specs.
So it's 8-foot sections, how many of that would be over the BVW?
Probably 8
Eight 8-foot sections.
to give us a decent enough room on either end. If it's gonna be up, say 18 inches, then there'll be a ramp at either end to get up onto it. So I envision being, probably 5 feet off on either end, outside the edge of wetlands, and then adding a ramp so that the actual foot traffic's probably gonna be 10 feet on either side.
Certainly, I would like to see more details around that on the plan.
Okay, is there a DEP policy, or do
So
I?
there's not, I can definitely look, because I know that they have, it's not really policy, but it's like best practices when putting boardwalk crossings across wetlands, like if you were doing it on conservation trails or parcels. I can definitely take a look. There's not an actual spec off the top of my head, and I know if I were to ask DEP, they would probably just reference the, like, boardwalk and piers, but we're not really dealing with tidal waters and/or perennial
No.
stream or streams, so, that would just be a rabbit hole that I don't think it would necessarily qualify for a project like this, just because it's not, you're not dealing with the scope of a resource area like that.
Yeah, and I hope you recognize that, this is an attempt to be a good neighbor and do the right thing.
Oh, yeah.
But the particular resource area that we're crossing, when you look on the plan, it's a small little finger. This isn't a boardwalk that's going through the middle of a
Oh, yes, no.
100-foot
And
wide
I've-
wetland.
And I've been out there, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I think we're just being hesitant and asking for more details, just from like a DEP perspective, because I know that they might look at this, and the first thing they see is like, oh, it's a buffer zone only project, but there's a boardwalk proposed across BVW. What the heck does that, what does that entail? How is that gonna be built? And any details regarding that. And I think that would, I don't know what analysts would look at it. It might not raise a red flag in their opinion. If all the specs are up to date and you describe in detail that what the existing area is, that like, yes, it's a walking trail through an existing BVW. It has been for X amount of years. It's for the archery, trail. It's not as high traffic, because you don't have as many archery people, but then you go ahead and you explain that it realistically is improving the resource area, not necessarily harming the resource area. I think that would, in my opinion, give DEP the chance to be like, okay, that makes sense. If you guys
Pictures
agree.
we have,
If you guys want pictures, yeah.
no, for the DEP, just, that's the.
Yeah, they can also, they could look up the specs of what, like, screw anchors are and everything. But yeah, so that's why, I think that's why we're being a little bit more critical on it, just because it's not necessarily the commission that's against it, it's just, I wanna make sure
Oh, no,
everything's
I
tip-top
didn't
shape.
say that.
Yeah, but I saw in the plan you have today that you do have the little bit of the detail on the bottom referencing the boardwalk. So maybe just more detail in the narrative, just describing like the before and after and what the intent of putting the boardwalk there is for, so, to help explain the situation better.
And then the other things, are you proposing for the canopy and such like that, when would those details be provided?
I'm waiting from the engineer, from the steel company, because I want it safe. I'm kind of overbuilding it, to be honest with you. What they really wanted was just like a couple of canvas canopies. I'm like, no, we have a wind area that comes through there, and it wouldn't be safe, especially when people were shooting on the trap line. That could be dangerous. So that's when I sat back and says, no, this needs to be engineered for safety, and that's how I'm doing it. So it's all been turned over to Mill City Ironworks, and they're doing the engineered plan for us.
So do we know the footprint of where that's going to be?
Yeah, Jeff has it on the map there. Yeah, it is.
It should be on the old, I think you guys have the older plan.
Yep, I can.
I know this is kind of busy. Do you want me to point it out?
Sure, I can see, I saw it on the old plan, I just don't know, is this a hard
The wall
footprint, or
and-
is this going to be
Or is it gonna be
Existing
in
wall,
potentially
the new
changing?
wall, and if you look at it, this is one end. This would be the front edge. You can see it's 3 sections here, and then returning back to just over the back of the wall. It's hard to see, but just on this side of the wall, here, here, and here, if you see the little point there, that angle point, that's the back edge of it. So just this side of the wall, there'd be a column, 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 and column. So, I don't know if you saw that. This is the front edge, these 3 segments, returns back, and then there's 3 segments back here. So the columns would be just this side of the wall. So the columns would go up, and why it really needs engineering is, if you've got a canopy like this and a column here, you've got a brace, and
we got a cantilever?
you know, so everything's just, from one
So I
set
guess,
of columns.
I guess the question is, estimating roughly how long do you think it would take to get all that information back from the engineer? And then, like you said, possibly doing an amendment just for that section? Or,
It's big.
I guess, if it takes longer to get that engineered information back and to have a full set design, maybe taking it out of this notice of intent and then filing, maybe just doing a director's determination or an RDA just for that specific. So do you
Well-
do what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, at this point, if you want us to continue anyway because of the
When may
boardwalk,
have it by the next hearing?
I can't tell you when those plans will be ready. If they happen to be ready by the next meeting, then great. If not, then I guess we'll discuss it then,
Okay.
see where we're at. Even RDAs, you have to notify abutters. So, yep, with that,
Do you guys have any more questions?
Any other
were there any others?
Okay.
Do you have any questions? Then I'm just running through my list. I don't think I have any other questions. Yeah, I guess just the biggest concern is I'm all for fixing the BBW and putting a boardwalk there. I just think some more detail just for our record and for DEP record, that it clearly states exactly how it's gonna be constructed, the before, the after, everything, so it's just down to the dotting the i's, crossing the t's type of description that, will be sufficient, I think, for the board.
And do you think that's going to be an issue? I mean, it is described as a buffer zone project only, yet we're.
Yes. I think if it is described well enough in the narrative, I think it can stay as a buffer zone only project, because when I was thinking of it at first, I had no idea how you guys were gonna approach putting the boardwalk there, cause I mean, you could go from any avenue So I didn't know how much disturbance was going to be affected, so that's why I said that. But if it's only doing the screws, I mean, realistically, that's, you trying to quantify screw width to the amount of feet that you're putting it in, or the inches that you're putting in, I think would get too meticulous. So if you just describe that out in more detail in the narrative, I think that DEP would see that and be like, okay, I think that it would be appropriate, because it's really, it's hard to quantify that you're disturbing it, but in a way that's not to the point that it would even qualify as disturbance, if you get what I'm
Right.
saying. So, I like go back and forth between, so that's why I called it out, because I'm just like,
Right, you might be talking 1 or 2 square feet,
yeah.
you know?
So, I think that keeping it as a buffer zone only project, but then going into more detail, that the applicant does understand that this part is going through a BBW, which per the Wetlands Protection Act is disturbance and alteration of a resource area, and then going into detail about existing, and then what you guys are proposing that is actually gonna enhance the resource area in the long run. Does that seem appropriate?
That was perfect.
All right, I'll get you as much detail as I can.
Okay.
But just know that it really is a built-in-place project. You know, it's not something where I can give you full construction drawings and they're gonna build it, put it there.
Oh, yes, and I
You know,
think we understand that.
They'll be measuring and cutting and
Oh, yeah.
so on.
No.
Yeah.
And I guess my last question would be, is on that new plan you submitted, so on that one, you referenced an infiltration trench detail. Exactly what are you guys proposing to do with that and where?
That's an anticipation, if you read the narrative, of the canopy. Yeah. And basically what they're envisioning is that the canopy will slope towards the pond. And so the drip ledge would be just on the pond side of the wall. So as they're constructing the wall, they have to, of course, dig the trench for the crushed stone base for the wall itself. They can dig the 2-foot infiltration trench next to it all at the same time, put all the crushed stone in, build it as they go, finish the wall, and they'll have their 2-foot infiltration trench all done. If the canopy never got approved and built, well, then they just have a crushed stone trench. But it doesn't make sense to do the trench later when the canopy gets built. So I said, let's just do it now, get it in there, that's how it should be done. If you take this detail and just place it right here in front of the wall, that's what it's gonna look like. Yeah.
But the canopy though, it's, the rain is gonna go through, or it's gonna,
It'll shed off,
it's at the harbor, okay. Yeah.
yeah, but it's all open, so
Yeah.
some of it will, some of it. If it's windy enough, you'll still get wet.
Okay, if we don't have any other questions, I'll take a motion to continue the hearing.
Open the public.
I'll take a motion to open the public portion of the hearing.
I would like to make a motion to open to the public hearing.
Motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Chairman, I would like to make a motion to close the public hearing. No,
Nope.
continue. Oh, continue the public hearing. No, hold on. To continue to August 27, 2024.
I have a motion to continue the hearing. Second.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I'll get you the detail on the camera.
Yes. And I'll work on that boardwalk. Somebody should write a song.
And so, as regards to the boardwalk, I will look through my, books from taking the classes to see the state of Mass, for building trails and boardwalks, and dig out which ones pertain, and if there's any ruling, so I can give it to you, Emily, and you can,
But Ed, would that be similar to like what we did at Sherburne,
yes, but
right?
But Sherburne's so old.
Emily, yes,
Well, this has been there since
yes, but it's a dirt walkway.
So like, yeah, the property's old, but the boardwalk at Sherburne,
it was prior.
before it was even.
Okay, next item on the agenda, enforcement order, 23 Chestnut Road.
I haven't heard anything, from him, but our last meeting, I think he was still working with the surveyor to get all the information down.
Gentlemen with the,
Yes.
We love boardwalks in Tyngsborough.
Boardwalk Empire.
It just happens because we have so much wetlands, you know?
We're like,
I know.
in the
Right?
Jersey Shore,
Yeah.
City, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is order of conditions extension, Town of Tyngsborough, Upper Massapog Aquatic Treatment. Request for the extension of the order of conditions, DEP number 3090916, last extension 6/6/2021.
So this is the treatment for Upper Massapog, so if you're going down Groton Road, it's the part of the pond that, is
Wilson
parallel
Way.
with Wilson Way. I guess they also do, weed treatment, lake health up in that upper part, since it does connect to the main part and then goes out into a wetland. So I asked for some update. I haven't received anything, but I will continue to ask, and basically just get an updated for their aquatic treatment to keep part of our records. So if you
Yeah.
guys wanna-
And so if, just so you guys know, if you're not really familiar with it, it's the other side of the dam. Wilson Way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what we've been doing, is 3-year.
You guys can decide to do it for a year,
Or-
and then what we can do is, once this next one is up, we can ask them to, refile
File, yes.
with a new update, because I know, and that was the same thing for the middle Massapog. I was thinking of, once the 3-year extension's up for that one, having them refile as well, because I know from the original application that was sent, a lot has changed,
Yes.
like they're not
Chestnuts.
using the water chestnuts and that type of tractor thing that floats in the water.
What's that?
Wanna vote on it?
Yep, so do you want to approve a 3-year extension on this? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve a 3-year extension order of conditions for the town of Tyngsborough Upper Massapog Aquatic Treatment, DEP 3090916.
Should
I'll
we-
second that.
Should we include, then they have to refile after the 3 years?
I
Or
can just
just what-
include that in the, yeah.
It
Okay,
would be for 3 years.
yes, it's 3 years. So you seconded, Pat?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, so it's approved. Next thing, approval of minutes, July 23rd, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I didn't read them.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't see a copy here either.
They're in your packet that I gave you today.
The word read.
Really?
So we can, Jeff can abstain himself if he wants, right? We still have a quorum, abstain, and 3 approve.
For the minutes? He can if he wants.
Okay. Unless you wanna read them.
He
real
doesn't
quick.
wanna read them.
Alright, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from July 23rd, 2024.
Do I have a second?
Yes, yeah. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
One abstain, 3 in favor. Correspondence, no correspondence. Topics the chairman did not reasonably anticipate would just be discussed.
The only thing I wanted to talk about is, about the ducks washing up
yes.
on the lake.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Would, I guess my proposal would be would it be appropriate to have the Lake Association reach out to either the Tyngsborough PD or the environmental police to make them aware of it, so that when they do go out and patrol, that they try to stop people from targeting the ducks on their jet ski?
What are they doing?
So,
There's-
there's been talk, and I've been seeing it on not only Drake's town's Facebook group, but the Lake Muscoppic Facebook group, that there's been some ducks that have washed up on the beach along the part of the lake
Parham
that
Road.
is next to Parham
Yeah.
Road.
Yeah.
Later investigation from somebody that lives on the lake is that the people that come and drop their jet skis in from the Drake Beach some have been aiming and targeting straight at the ducks. So that might be causing them to die. So,
And I also picked one up Sunday night that could only swim with its wings,
Oh, really?
and put him in the
Getting
cooler
crazy
overnight,
out there
and
on the lake.
he did get its legs working the next morning enough to swim. It can swim and paddle, but it can't get over the rope, but it's still hanging around my beach, it's doing fine.
so I was thinking that, I mean, I can reach out, but maybe the Lake Association should reach out not only to the Tyngsborough PD, because I know they patrol in their boat, but also the environmental police have been there more frequently recently this year, just because of the influx of people that have been going to the Drake Beach, that we should kind of make them aware of it, so if they do go out on boat, or if they do see it, that they can stop further action from happening. And then I'll give you the don't feed the duck sign.
Yep, I'll put
Because
them
I
on.
also think that the dead ducks are also leading, they're probably going through the trash at the beach, people probably feeding them bread and other
Yep.
food, which is also could be leading to,
To them dying.
Right.
So,
Yep.
so this, the majority of this problem is basically Drake it. At the end of the day,
Yeah, but you can't regulate it.
I
It's-
know, Eddie, I understand that part of
I
it.
know, oh, believe me.
That's what's happening.
oh, I know, and I planned on reaching out to their conservation director,
Okay.
not only about this problem, but just about the whole Drake Beach side of Lake Muscoppic in general, because not only has this come up recently, but the beach just has such a high influx of people that they're having fires which are unregulated and not supposed to happen. They're not cleaning up the fires after, which could cause serious issues if someone were to walk that beach the next morning, stepping on the coals. The trash is getting a little bit out of control, which could be leading into the lake. You said that you were picking up trash that was floating towards your beach. So I was gonna email her and just kind of make her aware of the situation, even though she probably knows, but kind of see that if there's any leverage she can pull from her end, so we can kind of team up and work together on this problem.
Drake it has been, Drake it police have been going out with the Tyngsborough police in the police boat together. I know they've been doing that. And now Drake it's been lining the road with no parking signs.
Yeah.
Because both sides of the road's they're parking trailers, trucks. It's crazy.
I'll also post something on the Lake Association face page too. I had to do something for Tyngsborough Wildlife because of trapping and releasing animals in other areas, which is,
But I think that the Lake Association should personally reach out, whether it's the president or the vice president. You guys should reach out to the Tyngsborough PD and to environmental police and Jacob PD in one big email and just be like, listen, there's been actual sightings of people using their jet skis and have been targeting the ducks straight on, and that's not appropriate.
it can even be the boats too, because they're dodging it. I mean, the
Oh,
lake
no,
is the zoo.
yeah, true, I guess, it's not only the
Yeah.
jet skis, the boats, kind
I mean, the lake is a zoo when it's, nice weather.
Any other new business?
That's it, no old business? Can I
Not
have a
at
motion to
9:30.
adjourn the meeting?
Go ahead, Chip. Nope, nope.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.